Good morning, everybody. This is Brian Wallace, Director of Marketing at Kiefer Consulting, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar this morning. These webinars are hosted monthly by Kiefer, and we notify most of the folks that are on the webinar about the event via social media or through our newsletter. So we thank you for joining us today. It's a great pleasure of introducing Matt Green, who is our SharePoint consultant, and he's actually going to be running the presentation today. But we do have our contact information up on the screen now, and at the end of the presentation, you'll also see our contact information. So if you do have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Also, at the end of today's webinar, there'll be a short forced question survey. If you wouldn't mind, please just taking just a couple minutes to give us some feedback on today's webinar. That helps us improve these events and make sure that folks are getting exactly what they're looking for in these 30-minute webinars. So the webinar is going to go about 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so, and there will be some time for questions at the end. There is a panel on the side of your screen, and you'll see a question section. If you do have a question during this webinar today, please feel free to enter into the question section, and I will present that question to Matt as time permits. So any questions during the presentation, we can go ahead and address those. And then at the end, we'll go ahead and answer any any additional questions that you guys might have. So Matt Green is one of our consultants. He's a pro with Nintex, and today he's going to be showing you some workflows using Nintex SharePoint and showing you how to get the most out of some of these tools. So Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. So in order to start today's presentation, I think it's important for us to kind of look at the current business climate that we all are a part of right now and kind of determine and understand why Nintex fits into our lives. So let's just hop right in there. So as we all know, in today's business world, the different types of content and data that we are using is growing very rapidly. We're producing emails, spreadsheets, Word documents, images and videos, and filling out forms. This growth in the content type can present a big problem with collaboration. Knowing what type of file and who is maintaining it can be complicated to follow for us. And so on top of that, there's also the number of people in your organization creating the content that is also growing. They're basically using this content to make decisions, looking for ways to store, share, and collaborate on the content that is growing. This is also true for places where the content is found, right? So for business users, there's a multitude of apps. Some of them are blessed by IT and some not, that help them store, share, and collaborate on. So what's interesting about this is if you look at the apps listed on this slide, some are on-premise applications and some are in the cloud. This hybrid mix of places is unfortunately making users sort of take a step backwards, and we end up seeing a lot of people going back to manual processes. Yes, sure, these business users are actually getting things done digitally, but now it's through some sort of digitalized manual process, right? We're still attaching documents to emails and making phone calls, manually uploading to places like OneDrive, or in some cases still even dropping files into file shares, all in a very unstructured way, right? So meanwhile, this isn't really slowing down the management investment into more cloud and on-premise infrastructure. And at the same time, they're looking for a return on these investments. To add to this, your business users need to be able to collaborate more and more outside the firewall. We all know it's happening, whether, again, it's blessed by RT or not. But these users' demands are changing as well. They're demanding access via mobile. They want new processes that cross their line of business applications and magically make everything work together to help alleviate some of the stress of having so many new options. Knowing that these demands can't really be handled by our traditional IT systems. So how are we to adapt and solve these sort of business problems? How do we make our work flow better? All right, so this is where we start to talk a little bit about Nintex. But before we do that, I want us to take a quick look at a couple of questions, right? I want you to ask yourself, what is the most important asset that your business has? And two, what's becoming one of the most abundant, complex, and difficult assets to manage within your business? If you're like many of the businesses that we at Kiefer talk to, the answer to question one is really the people. And among the answers to question two is your content, right? Your people and your team are the most valuable asset that you as a business have. They take care of your customers, they create service or products that you sell, they run your back office, right? They manage your systems. I mean, they make your business work. They are your business. And increasingly, the content you generate that helps your business run, everything from HR to accounting to marketing to IT to sales to customer service, it is one of the most abundant and complex assets that you have. As you refine your own internal processes and as you train your team or as you market or sell your products or interact with customers, you're gathering new data, you're trafficking new information, and you're creating new content. And connecting your people to this important business content is what workflow really is all about. You undoubtedly already have hundreds or thousands of processes that make your business work, right? And this makes your work flow. And the goal of Nintex is to automate these processes, right? So with Nintex, you can quickly and easily do things like build out visual workflows. You can create custom and dynamic forms. You can generate documents on the fly with things like Drawloop. I think that's their partner. You connect to other business applications in the cloud, right? And you can do this from anywhere on any device. That's really where Nintex shines in regards to this. So let's take a look at some of what Nintex provides for these capabilities that we just talked about. And they do this through a number of different products that all sort of make up the Nintex platform, right? So you have Nintex Workflow, which is a visual workflow platform that can be used to automate your business processes quickly and easily. There is Nintex Forms, which is a simple and fast form tool to help you create and publish, deploy custom and dynamic forms from anywhere. There's Nintex Mobile, which is a mobile-first platform that lets you build Nintex-based mobile apps for enterprise deployment and use, right? And then something we'll talk about a lot today is there's the Nintex Connector, which is basically a platform for connecting your different business application processes together through Nintex. There's a couple other products that Nintex is now offering or are coming out that I don't have mentioned here, things like Nintex Hawkeye, which is basically workflow and process analytics. And then one of their newest offerings, which is coming out, is the Nintex Workflow Cloud, which is basically workflow process automation that you get out of, similar to the Nintex Workflow product, but completely outside the restrictions of SharePoint. So it's a cloud-based service that Nintex is looking to offer. These tools all come with a ton of features to benefit you and your organization in a multitude of different ways. So let's take a look at a few of these benefits for you. So one of the things that Nintex does really well is it helps you get started quickly, right? Nintex implementation and installation is very fast and efficient, and the familiar interface means you can really start automating your business processes the same day and finish them in hours or days instead of weeks or months. Nintex actually lets you hit the ground running. So Nintex includes a catalog of sample workflow as well as a lot of time-saving smart defaults that pre-configure common activities and settings. So you don't have to start from scratch, and you can make simple adjustments to customize each workflow to your own needs. This includes workflow logic such as loops or parallel actions, state machines. There's actions for library and list interactions such as creating, deleting, or copying items. And you can even call a web service without writing any code. It also provides you the benefit of reduced steps, so you don't waste time thanks to these reduced steps. Nintex does this because it's configured to keep as many tools and settings as possible in one place. You've got your workflow designer, which we'll look at in just a minute, which is basically all your tools right there. You don't have to move away. Everything's visible for you. So you can avoid the excess screen navigation and cumbersome pop-up windows. Nintex also lets you create custom forms in minutes. With Nintex Forms, basically you can create and publish web-ready and mobile-ready forms that feature dynamic fields, data validation, conditional display areas, and custom formatting for real rich interactions. And we'll actually hopefully get a chance to see some of that today. Nintex will actually help you make your workflows instantly mobile. So again, with Nintex Mobile and Nintex Forms, you can basically create fully featured mobile workflow applications using a browser, but they're based on workflow and forms, and it's a single publish, but it will work across all your different devices. And then finally, what's really nice is you can create external forms in one click as well. So you can deploy Nintex Forms outside of your firewall with one click, so you can follow external participation to submit forms and complete tasks without really being behind your corporate firewall. So there's a lot of benefit, and they make it simple and easy. Some additional things that we'll talk about today regards Nintex and how it helps you connect to your content, specifically the content outside of SharePoint. So Nintex is very powerful. It connects to any system that you use to manage your content on-premise or off. So you can really tackle simple and single department processes as well as complex or company-wide workflows. Nintex really helps you link your work across systems and services. So Nintex includes support for a wide variety of protocols for talking to data and APIs from other systems. So you can build workflows that capture and use data from a multitude of solutions across your business. And also, Nintex really helps you move to the cloud on your own terms, right? So Nintex allows you to create workflows that stretch across both cloud-based and on-premise systems and services, so you can distribute your work to a multitude of sites for multiple purposes. And then finally, which I have up here already, is you can use Nintex for your social channels to make and manage your workflow, right? So Nintex actually offers a wide variety of support for social media, things like Yammer or LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, WordPress even, and other social tools. So you can really distribute your work using social media channels and monitor those channels to ensure work gets done. So with that, I say let's hop into the demos. I'm a technical guy. I like to show you guys what this is and how it works. So let's start with our first demo that I have here. So what this demo really is it's a project site provisioning workflow. So this is a basic flow. It's very high level. And what we see here is essentially what I'm doing here is we're going to be using Salesforce. And as we add a new account, what I want to have happen for the business is basically that new account will trigger a request for a new project site. So the idea here is the business, whenever we add a new account, we want to be able to collaborate with or about this new account. And so we need to try to automate that process so there's no lag time. We want to make sure that we can stand up a new SharePoint site to collaborate in and get our work and upload documents and stuff as soon as possible. So the idea behind this is, part of the choice in this is this an internal only site that needs to be created or something that is external that we need to add contractors or other individuals to? And so what this will do is during the approval process, we'll determine, should we make this a SharePoint 2016 team site, which is for internal use only, or do we make this a SharePoint Online team site where we can add external collaborators on? So really what I want to show here is that we can cross lines of business. So in this case, this is a breakdown of sort of the flow of how this workflow will work. And the way we're doing this all is we're using a couple different features of Nintex. Their external start functionality is one thing that we'll be using. We'll be connecting that with Salesforce through Zapier. So essentially the way this will work was we'll add a new Salesforce account in Salesforce. Zapier, which is a third-party application or service that's offered, that's sort of our listener. It's going to be our event listener. It's going to listen for that new account to be added. And once it picks up that new account, it's going to pass that information and trigger a Nintex workflow in our SharePoint 2016 on-prem environment. That Nintex workflow will drive the approval process for creating a new site. And then depending upon the input by the IT manager, we'll either determine that it needs to be an on-premise site, so being a team site under SharePoint 2016, or we'll push it and create a site on our Office 365 instance that we have. So let me pull this up and pull up my first demo here. So what you guys might be able to see here, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys here, is this is my Salesforce instance. I've got a number of customers already listed under my stuff. I'm just going to add a new customer here. It's really as simple as putting in a customer name. Some of you might be familiar with Salesforce. I'm not going to fill out everything here. I'm going to provide some general information about my customer. I'm going to say this is actually a technology partner that we're working with. They're in the entertainment industry, right? I'm going to probably leave the rest of this alone. This is the basic information I need to start with. So you can basically fill this out to wherever you guys do your Salesforce information. I'm going to hit Save here. And really that's all that's required for the Salesforce piece. We have our new account created. This is where the Zapier third-party service is going to pick up this information and be able to listen to this and trigger a workflow for us. So just so you can see that, and coming into my Zapier account here, where we're waiting for this to run, it's really very easy to set up. I've connected it with my Salesforce account. I can even test the steps and determine what sort of information is being pulled. And then once this is triggered, it's going to start a workflow. And again, in this case, I can set up multiple workflows. I can edit the template for this workflow and pass information. So in this case, I'll be passing a bunch of account information for Salesforce into SharePoint through Nintex, right? So if we come back here, we can look at our task history. We'll see here that the task actually triggered just a couple seconds ago, last about a minute or so. We can actually see where it's at in that process. So it's been triggered, it's sent the new workflow action. So basically we just need to wait now for SharePoint to pick that up. So while we're doing that, I'm going to come over here to my SharePoint 2016 instance, and I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys. Let's take a quick look while we wait for this at the workflow. So hopefully you guys can see my screen here. This is basically the workflow, the Nintex Workflow Designer window. So what's really great about this is, like I described, it's everything in one place. It's all visual. It's real simple to put together a workflow and understand how a workflow actually works. So in this example here is once our item gets added to our SharePoint instance, so we'll create a new list item with the request information. And this essentially is our approval process. So I'll zoom out here just so you can see the overview. But essentially, it goes through two directions. So once we start the workflow, it's going to assign a task, right? And this is an approval task, and we'll hopefully get to see this here in a minute. And it's going to notify the user who's assigned to this automatically through email, right? And they're going to be asked to basically review the information and determine do they approve or reject this request. If it's approved, we will then determine the request type, either create a site within the on-premise SharePoint 2016 environment, or we will create a site on the Office 365 instance that we have. And then once that's done, we'll make a couple updates to the item, and then we'll go and we'll send a notification out. So real simple workflow from the look and feel of it, really easy to build. So let me check my email here to see where I'm at. Yep, so that's done. We'll get back to that in just a moment. But just so you can see how easy it is to build these sort of workflows, here on the left-hand side we have basically our, so there's our notification right now, and we'll get to that in just a second. We've got what are called actions. And actions are real simple. They're a drag and drop type functionality here. So we can basically drag an action, like to create an item, and just drop it here into our workflow. And then we can click the drop down and click configure to actually start configuring that action, right? Since we're sort of focusing on the idea of connecting our line of business applications together, they have what are called core actions and then connector actions. And as you can see, there are a ton of connector actions. Now these differ based on version of SharePoint that you have. So 2013, there's a few less that you need to basically download them from what they call the catalog. 2016, they all come out of the box. And then Office 365 have a few different ones as well. But all in all, there's a lot of different third-party applications or other business applications that you can connect to, right? You have the ability to connect to Amazon, Bing, got Google, LinkedIn, MailChimp, even Microsoft Azure, where you can manage your Azure AD and virtual machines. So they really try to go really far in extending your ability to be able to contact and talk to other environments, right? In this case, we're using Office 365, which again has a bunch of different things that you can do on Office 365. And in our case, we're just creating a site, right? So coming back here to the Salesforce subsite I have, if I was to refresh this, we'll notice that our Monster Inc. Salesforce information is now here as a list item. Also, you saw that email notification, and that email notification basically just sends out this information and tells me what exactly we have to do. So in this case, it says that there's a new Salesforce account added for Monster Inc. We need to be able to update the item to reflect the request type, then assign a business owner for approval, and then start the approval process, right? We're provided a link, which we'll click to in just a moment. But also down here at the bottom, it sort of starts to pass over some useful information in the email as well. So this is something that's really nice with Nintex is we can basically make dynamic emails that get sent out to the appropriate people to automate and start our processes for us. So I'll click this link, and already it's going to take me directly to the edit form here. Now, this is not a Nintex form, obviously. This is an out-of-the-box SharePoint form. We'll look at Nintex forms on our next demo here. But really, all I need to do here, since it's filled out everything for me, is I basically need to determine is this an internal or an external project. And in this case, since it's a partner of ours, it's an external project that we'll need to add collaborators for. I'll add an approver. I'm going to make things simple for myself and add myself. And then I'll start the process. I'll just change the status to start approval and click OK. So as this saves, this will basically come back to our main site. We'll see if it's triggered here. We'll see here that it's actually triggered our workflow, right? And that's the workflow that we were just looking at right here, right? So once this workflow runs, we should get another email. We can see that right here. So this email is assigned to me to approve the project site piece, right? So this, again, is an automated email that the task, the Flexi task that we created, sending out. So what's really nice here is I can just click. It's going to take me to my approval task. Ask me just one simple question, approve or reject. If I scroll down, I can then view the related information. I see that's an external site for Monsters Inc. Here's some account information. Looks good to me. So I'm going to approve this and say it looks good. And I'm going to click OK. So again, the workflow is processing. And one thing we can do here is we can actually view the workflow history, which is, again, an additional added benefit here. So we can see the comments from the task. We can actually view the task itself for the approval. And then we can actually see where it is right now in the process. So we see that it's in progress, right? So the last step to this workflow is basically the fact that we will be, come back here and view this workflow. We will be getting a notification. And just to show you how this works, and open this real quickly, excuse me. And you can see we've added dynamic text. So this is going to this workflow email will address the user, give information about the account, and then provide a link to the new site, right? So this is going to take a minute because remember what we're doing here is from SharePoint on-premise, we are going to reach out to Office 365 and then create a new site there in Office 365. So we see here I got my email notification. They just tell me Matt Green, the project site request for Monsters Inc. was approved, and an external contractor site was created. you can navigate to the new site by clicking here. So I'm going to click this. As long as I'm logged in, there we go. Now we're on Office 365. I've created a brand new team site, and we're ready to go. We can basically start to add users and get off the ground, hit the ground running, right? So what's great is this is a very simple workflow, right? We can extend this, so if we wanted to add permissions or add default content, we can all do that for the workflow as well. So there's a lot of flexibility that we can do here in regards to setting up new sites. So that was a really good demo showing sort of 4 different line of business applications that we kind of worked together with all through Nintex. What I wanted to show you guys next was a little bit simpler of a demo, but it sort of shows off some of the form capabilities here. And this is going to be my translation demo. So the way that this is going to work is basically we've got an external form. The idea here is this is under the premise of running a campus of some sort with some parking lots. And we want to be able to make a number of different requests related to parking in these parking lots. Now, the requests in this case are coming from the public, right? So we need to be able to have a way in order for the public to submit information to our business and then store that information internally in our internal SharePoint instance or environment, and then be able to process that information. And why we do that, we want to be able to communicate with that member of the public in order to let them know how things are going and so forth, right? So just to show you how this will work, this link I'm clicking right here is to a Nintex external form. So this is Nintex Forms. As you can see, this is a custom form. So this is part of the Nintex Form product. It's real simple and real easy to do. All I had to do was a couple clicks, and I've got a form that works internally that's custom looking, and it automatically gets hosted by Nintex as an external form here. So what's really nice about these forms is part of this thing I'm allowing is a response language, right? So part of this demo is it's going to let the user receive emails in a different language if they so choose, right? So in this case, I'll say Spanish. I'm going to say my name's Matt. I'm going to put my email here. And then a phone number, right? So I want to show some things here just a minute. So just to show this, with forms like this, you can have a number of things from validation and additional rules. So on a request down here, I'm going to say, okay, this is a parking ticket issue, right? You notice how we have new fields that appeared because of it. So I'll change this to accident report. We have this is changed to act with a police report filed, right? We're going back to parking permit requested. We don't need as much information. So part of this form functionality are rules that let you actually change the fields, what's shown, what's hidden, what sort of information is collected based on selected field values on your form. So this is really flexible and really easy to set up. In which case, I'm going to say it's a ticket you issued in parking lot C. I'm going to give a generic number here. Say it's a Honda Civic. You also have a multitude of field types. So in this case, I'll just say, in this case, it's a date field. I can just use a date picker. I'll say, I was parked undercover and yet got a ticket. What's really great here is you can also add attachments, and these attachments will come across into your environment. So in this case, I've got my information right here where I'm clearly parked, and then I can submit my form. Oh, well, what happened? Well, we have validation, right? So in this case, we've added validation to the form to basically say, hey, this is not a phone number. It needs to be an actual format for us to submit it. And so there we go. I can basically just hit save. It's going to submit the form. And then this will get to our environment and land in our list with us. So in the interest of time, though, I'm going to jump to another entry I already have, because this form can take 5 to 10 minutes to come into your environment, depending on how it's working, because it's working off a timer job. But what I'll do here real quick, so I'll jump to my list. I already have a couple examples in here, right? And what I'll actually do here is I want to show you guys the workflow form builder real fast. Again, everything is in one place, all easily accessible. This is sort of just like the workflow product, the form product is a drag and drop sort of product, so I can click on controls to make changes to them. right? We have rules that we can build with very simple conditioning that will do stuff. So these are how I'm hiding and showing different fields here, right? And then on top of this, in order to publish that external form, it's one click. I come into external form settings, and then I just basically click publish, right? I give some information. You can allow anonymous access. You can limit the number of submissions, or give the form an expiration date. And you can customize your confirmation or cancellation messages. There's a lot of flexibility here, and it makes it real simple. And as soon as I'm done with that, all I really have to do is hit publish, and it's published out there. So one thing I didn't mention before is both workflows and forms make it real easy to import or export. So if you need to move your stuff along, it makes it real simple for you to do that, right? So you can basically export this form. If you had another form you want to have the same look and feel to, you can import it over there. So it makes it real easy and simple, right? I'll close out of this real quickly. I'm going to show you guys just an example of an email that came into this. If I show this down here. Yeah, here we go. So this is an example that my user would get. So in this case, it's a ticket reparking request, right? We have it as Donald. He's basically going to get an email with a custom template. So you see here we have our icon here. So you have the ability to add templating for your emails. So if you are interacting with the public, you can set footers, you can set headers. You have the ability to make this look really nice and official from your company, right? In this case, this message is in English, right? But it's not the only way that things can work here. You could basically have messages in multiple different languages, which I'll actually show you that in just a moment. So at the same time, while Donald is getting a message saying, we've received your information here, and we'll look over it, the actual member of the team, the parking lot enforcer, who's assigned to parking lot C, gets a message himself saying, hey, there's been a ticket request that's come in. It's by this user. We need to actually go in there and process this request so that we can get back to the user, right? So in which case, I'll click this link. It should take me directly to the item. And now we're modifying the item in the system here. Well, we're viewing the item first, right? So I can hit edit form. And now we're modifying this item. One thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the response language, and we'll say Spanish here. And we'll come down here. We'll take a look. He's got his information for his parking ticket, right? Just says he doesn't deserve the ticket. I'm being generous. So what I'll actually do here is I'll say, that's approved. He really didn't deserve it. Right? And then I'm going to hit save on this. Simple as that, right? And why we're waiting for this, oops, let's actually try this one here. Let me actually enter a new one. Yeah, my bad. I was trying to process something I'd already processed, and so it erred. That was my bad for putting in checkpoints into my workflow. I caused that myself. So let me do this again real fast. We'll say that this is just a parking permit request, parking lot C. Another thing, the location piece here that I'm talking about, that's actually determining that information from another list that we have. And what it's basically doing is it's going to automatically set the service member information down here, right? Let's save this. This will trigger our workflow real quickly. And so essentially while we're waiting for this, like I said, we've got a staff users list. So based upon this information, it's knowing who to assign the ticket to, right? So the workflow is determining that information. And then also what this is doing here is it's pulling message template information from another list. So we can very easily come in here and modify our messaging regardless of language in order to determine how it's sent, right, for each thing. So one thing to show you guys while we're waiting for this to run is the workflow itself. So this is very interactive here. I can actually look at the workflow. Here it is querying the information. It's going to be using Bing translation to actually change the messages, right? So we're actually determining language for the form and then basically sending that information out through Bing and then building out our emails and sending them to the users. So it's really nice. Here's a switch in action, so we can actually see we can take different paths based upon our input, right? And be able to actually do a lot with this stuff. So here we go. Here's our email, right? Again, I'm going to download this image so you can see what this looks like. Now, this is the same image that we sent, or the same message we sent before, but in this case, it's now in Spanish, right? So what's really nice here is we use Bing to translate our message, which was in English, and we're basically now communicating with the user in Spanish, their preferred language. That's all done using Bing translation in their API. Real nice, right? The other thing that we got here, if I come back here, was another email that was just talking about needing to respond to this item. So I'm going to click in here again. I'm going to edit the item. And again, I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to approve this. Say, permit approved. We'll hit save here. Give that a second to run. While we're waiting for that, I'll come back here to the designer for you guys and show you some of the stuff here at the top. So we can actually look at statistics or history regarding our workflow. So under statistics, we can actually break down the number of times the workflow has been ran. We can see the duration, like the average duration, max duration, min duration. And then what's really nice here is all the actions that we have in our workflow, we can actually see how often they occur, how long it takes for each one to work, so we can really get very granular in regards to how this stuff is functioning for us. So there's a lot of flexibility in evaluating your workflows, understanding the analytics of your workflows, and be able to make adjustments or changes. For instance, I know as a user, because of the dynamic aspect of these three different areas, I could technically condense these and make this even more dynamic, right? So here we go. We've got a response email that's been sent out. Again, this email is in Spanish, basically telling me, hey, you've been approved. Please pick it up from our offices. And it's all there, perfect for the user, exactly how they want to do this. So that's going to be our demos for today. Really, the main portion of this is to show you guys the flexibility, right, with how Nintex works with a multitude of different business applications, right? So you can basically work with Bing, you can work with Salesforce, you can work with Twitter. You have the ability to work across a wide variety of different services, and you're not limited to just working in SharePoint with Nintex. Brian, do you want to take back over?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Matt. It was a great demo. I'm glad we were able to see a couple different scenarios there. If you do have any questions, I know we're at 10:39. We do have a minute or two to answer any questions that you might have on the call. But if you don't, if you have maybe a little bit more of a more involved question, please feel free to email us. You are going to get an email from us after this webinar, which will give you a link to the recorded session, and also a link to a technical research paper that focuses on workflow and automating workflows. It's more thought leadership that we're able to share with you. So you will be able to get an email from us, and you can respond to us with any questions or any feedback that you might have. In addition, if there's something specifically you'd like to see or you have questions about a specific workflow, Matt and I would be happy to connect with you on a specific thing at a different time. So my contact information is there. That's my email address, and that's our home office number, 932-7220, area code 916, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for joining us today, and again, thanks for spending the time. And if you have a second, you might want to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and you can actually get to all of our social channels by just coming to our website, which is kieferconsulting.com. And every month we're publishing blog articles, offering up free white papers, and then we have a calendar of events that might be of interest to some of our audiences. We do these webinars, like I say, every month, and this is kind of the format that's kind of worked for us for the last 5 months. So if you have any feedback, please share. At the end of this call, like I said, there'll be a short survey that will come up. if you have just a minute or two to answer 4 questions, we'd really appreciate it. With that, thank you guys for joining us, and have a great day.